In October 1802, Beethoven sat alone in a village outside Vienna and wrote a letter no one was meant to find. He confessed that deafness had driven him from the world and pleaded that after his death, doctors explain what was destroying him. That plea went unanswered for 222 years. What science finally uncovered points back to the very physicians trying to save him. The Heiligenstadt Testament lay hidden for a quarter of a century, sealed and silent among Beethoven's private papers. Written on October 6, 1802, it was not a letter to the world, but a confession addressed to his brothers, Karl and Johann. Beethoven poured out the agony of his isolation in words that still carry the weight of a man cut off from the very sense that defined his life. For almost 2 years, he had ceased to attend any social functions, he wrote, just because he found it impossible to say to people that he was deaf. He was 31, living in a village outside Vienna, and already surrounded by silence. The lines moved between despair and resolve. Only my art, it seemed to me, held me back, he admits. I would have ended my life. It was only my art that held me back. Yet even as he considered death, Beethoven left instructions for those who would come after. If Dr. Schmidt is still alive, he asked him to describe his malady and to add this document to his report. He pleaded for understanding, not just for himself, but for others who might suffer as he did, so that the world may be reconciled to him after his death. The testament was discovered in March 1827, 3 months after Beethoven's death. His brother Karl found the folded sheet while sorting through the composer's desk. From there, it passed to Anton Schindler, Beethoven's secretary, and it was soon published, its contents sparking both shock and sympathy across Europe. The original document, with Beethoven's cramped script and underlined phrases, now resides in the Beethoven House in Bonn, its authenticity confirmed by a chain of custody that stretches from that first discovery to the present day. The testament is more than a relic. It is a private reckoning, a record of suffering, a last will, and an ethical request. Beethoven did not ask for pity. He asked for answers. In the centuries that followed, his plea would echo through medicine and music alike, that his illness be studied, that his life and his silence be understood. Vienna in the early 1800s offered little relief for chronic illness. Beethoven's search for treatment led him to 3 physicians, Johann Peter Frank, Gerhard von Währing, and Johann Adam Schmidt, each guided by the best medical knowledge of their time, each introducing new risks they could not have imagined. Frank, a pioneer in public health, examined Beethoven in 1801. He prescribed tonics and elixirs intended to restore strength and ease pain. These mixtures, drawn from the Austrian pharmacopoeia, often contained lead acetate, a standard solvent and preservative. Even almond oil, meant to calm the nerves, risked carrying lead directly into Beethoven's body with every dose. After Beethoven's despair in Heiligenstadt, Währing took over. He recommended daily immersion in the Danube's mineral waters, hoping to draw illness out through the skin. For persistent abdominal pain, Währing prescribed plasters made of lead oxide and linseed oil, pressed against the skin for weeks at a time. Beethoven's brother Karl wrote of the bath's futility and the irritation caused by the plasters, but the regimen continued, exposing Beethoven to lead through his skin. Schmidt, the most constant of Beethoven's doctors, kept detailed records. He prescribed galvanic stimulation for Beethoven's hearing, but relied on herbal tonics and lead-based tinctures for daily care. Twice a day, Beethoven swallowed a wine tincture laced with lead acetate and wore mineral plasters across his abdomen. Diary entries from 1805 describe severe stomach pain, but the treatments persisted, fueled by hope and necessity. Beyond medicine, lead seeped into Beethoven's daily life. Viennese wine, often sweetened with lead acetate, was a staple. Meals were served on pewter plates, with water poured from lead-glazed jugs and pipes. In this world, the line between remedy and hazard blurred. The doctors acted with care, following respected texts. Their treatments, meant to heal, created a constant, invisible exposure. The irony is stark. The very hands that tried to save Beethoven may have deepened his suffering. By 1818, Beethoven lived in a world without sound. He pressed his ear to the piano, feeling vibrations through the floor, reading lips he could no longer hear. Yet silence did not quiet his imagination. Friends and musicians began to write in conversation books, small volumes filled with questions, news, and daily business. Beethoven replied in short bursts, his speech halting, but his mind still racing with music no one else could hear. These books became his lifeline, capturing both the mundane and the extraordinary, requests for coffee, arguments about art, reminders of debts, and the ever-present shadow of his deafness. In this isolation, Beethoven wrote some of his most ambitious music. The Ninth Symphony, completed in 1824, stands as the greatest of these late works. He composed it in near total silence, relying on memory, mathematics, and the feel of keys beneath his fingers. Anton Schindler, his secretary, noted that Beethoven could not hear the orchestra or the voices that would soon sing Ode to Joy. Illness and poverty pressed in, but his creative force refused to yield. On May 7, 1824, the Ninth Symphony premiered at Vienna's Theater am Karntnertor. Beethoven stood on stage, lost in the score, unable to hear a single note or the audience's reaction. When the music ended, he remained turned toward the orchestra, unaware of the eruption of applause behind him. Caroline Unger, the contralto soloist, gently took his arm and turned him to face the crowd. Only then did he see the ovation, handkerchiefs waving, hats tossed in the air, a sea of gratitude he could only witness, not hear. The conversation books from these final years survive as a record of adaptation and endurance. Beethoven's triumph was not just willpower, but a reckoning with the body's limits and the mind's reach. The Ninth, born in silence, became a cultural milestone, proof that his art could still break through the silence. A small FedEx box arrived at the Mayo Clinic's Metals Laboratory in May 2024. Inside, 2 locks of Beethoven's hair, authenticated by archivists and geneticists, waited for answers. Sarah Erdahl, the technician on duty, handled the samples with meticulous care. My heart was fluttering. Every strand counts. She logged the chain of custody, sealed the hair in deep freeze, and began the forensic process. Each lock was washed, digested in ultra-pure nitric acid, and spiked with a lead isotope. The Thermo Fisher Element 2, running inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry, measured metal content atom by atom. The results were immediate and staggering: 258 micrograms of lead per gram of hair in one lock, 380 in the other. For comparison, the modern reference for adult hair is 4 micrograms per gram. Beethoven's levels were 64 to 95 times higher than normal, far exceeding even industrial exposure. No accidental contamination, no lab error. The numbers held through 3 independent digestions, with quality controls and blanks confirming the findings. Paul Janetto, director of the Metals Laboratory, reviewed the data. "These are the highest values I've ever seen in a human hair sample," he said. "If Beethoven were seen in an emergency room today, we would admit him for immediate chelation therapy." Laser ablation mapped lead along each strand, revealing a chronic, relentless exposure. The lead was embedded deep within the hair's structure, evidence of years, if not decades, of accumulation. The clinical meaning was devastating. Blood lead levels above 30 micrograms per deciliter are linked to cognitive decline and organ damage. Beethoven's hair held more than 250 micrograms per gram. His symptoms, abdominal pain, kidney failure, and progressive deafness, matched classic lead poisoning. Erdahl's words echoed the moment's gravity. Every strand counts. The numbers told the story. Beethoven carried a lead burden almost without parallel, shaped by treatments meant to heal him. The answer, at last, was written in the elements themselves. To this day, Beethoven's plea, so that as far as possible the world may be reconciled to me, echoes in every new discovery. Modern lab results found his lead levels over 100 times higher than average. Medicine advances, but its limits still shape human fate. Some answers arrive too late.